He's on 5.
Us today, those of you who are present here joining us today, and those online, thank you so much for being present, being in this time, this nature, in this place. For those who haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. Thank you so much. We will now have music from Carol Mitchell and Steve Isaac. Mary, did you know?
Yes.
Mary, did you know that your baby boy one day walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? And this child that you delivered will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will give sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will calm the storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod? And when you kiss your little baby, you kiss the face of God. The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the dead will live again. The lame will leap, the dumb will speak, the praises of the Lamb. Mary, did you know that your baby boy is Lord of all creation? Mary, did you know that your baby boy one day rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy is heaven's perfect lamb? And the sleeping child you're holding is the great I am. Mary, did you know?
I chose a passage from Daily Word. Within me is an ever-expanding reservoir of love. It can be hard to find love in a world that feels lonely and cold. Rather than deep despair, I find an inexhaustible supply of God's love deep in my heart. Love is the name and the nature of God. It holds no ill will or unforgiveness. It is the glue of creation and the catalyst for awakening. It asks nothing but gives more than I could ever dream of. Divine love is unconditional and fearless. When I claim this love as my own, I need no longer seek it outside myself. Instead, I bring it within me wherever I go. My kind words and considerate acts brighten my corner of the world and inspire kindness and consideration that spreads far beyond me. and it blesses others. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but ye shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Leviticus 19:8. And now we'll have music from Carol and the Goodfellows.
Good morning, everyone. Well, if you know me and you know us, we're a little crazy up here, so we like to mix things up a bit, and we're going to do that right now. I need to call my friend Mandy up here. Mandy, get up here, would you please? Mandy's going to help us out with this song. She showed up on Wednesday with us to do a little thing. So now we're going to do a little thing for you. Do a little thing, and she decided to address the theme as well, so we're good. I think so. So we got Mandy, we got Carol, we got me, but Bill, I know what we're missing. We need to set the mood, brother. Hook it up. Oh yeah, but it's Florida, so yeah, right? Ooh, might want to put some sleeves on, brother. All right, here we go. Good song. It's called "Walking in a Wonderland." With a twist. Palm trees wave. Are you listening? In the pool, water's glistening. A beautiful sight. We're happy tonight. Living in a Florida wonderland.
Far away, there's a blizzard. Here to stay, get the lizard. A warm sunny day, we like it that way.
Living in a Florida wonderland.
On the sandy beach, we'll have a picnic.
Chips and dips and salsa in the sun.
Christmas dinner is an old tradition.
Drinks of sweetened tea and grouper by the ton.
Yeah.
Later on, we'll perspire. Temperatures rising higher. A warm sunny day, we like it that way. Living in a Florida wonderland. Take it away, Bill. Salsa in the sun.
Christmas dinner is an old tradition.
Drinks of sweetened tea and grouper by the ton. Yum. Later on, we'll perspire. Temperatures rising higher. A warm sunny day, we like it that way. Living in a Florida wonderland. Oh yeah. Living in a Florida wonderland.
In a Florida wonderland. Yeah.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Mandy. Thanks for the mood lighting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Daryl, Carol, Bill, Mandy, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to be here. As always, I'm excited about sharing what the Holy Spirit, what the Christ in us is wanting us to share through our living, through our works, through our thoughts, through the intention that we have, and we have the opportunity to uplift and energize everything and everybody around us, whether we believe that or not. So in the opening morning prayer that Reverend Zemke did this morning, he mentioned about keeping in mind the people that are hurting in our world, in our immediate lives, in our communities, and the greater community at large in the world, that people that are hurting and in pain. And if you think about it, that many times when we're hurting inwardly and we're not aware of it and we're unconscious to our pain, we project that out in a very angry and hateful way, and we don't have a functional grounded, healthy way to express pain. So we just lash out and we attack each other, and we take our differences as an opportunity to embellish justification for attack on each other, which has become very stylish and in vogue in our world especially given the platform that we have to be able to go into groups and share your hatred with others that have the same sort of grievances against other brothers and sisters, groups of brothers and sisters, be it political, social, cultural, whatever it may be. Our worldly mind has developed a whole lot of reasons to come up with justifications for attack and sort of vilifying others. And if we're going to walk a spiritual walk, we have to be very, very mindful of even the subtle judgments that we have, even the subtle ones that we've come to accept and we've come to kind of write off as just being normal human stuff. My brother Angelo, who speaks in the area, Reverend Angelo, shares about gossip, about how to be very mindful to gossip, because gossip we've accepted as kind of normal and everybody kind of just falls into it. But what happens, it creates an energy of darkness that justifies attack on each other, and it's normal. It's kind of an unwritten, unspoken language, but it creates justification for attack of each other, even in subtle ways, and we don't realize how much energy we're giving away, we're wasting in hateful, dark forces that we could be using to do the opposite and uplift and join. In Marvin's inspirational reading, he shared about the heart is the glue of creation. And that stuck with me because what's come to me very strongly in the last couple years is this idea of the heart being the space of training our minds with the Christ, with the God, with creative force in us. For many years, as some of you know, I was a real devoted student of the Course in Miracles, which is Jesus's reinterpretation of his true gospel. And I was really big into this thing of mind training and training the mind and disciplining the mind so it can see the Christ and the Spirit in the world of images and appearances and differences and not be fooled by that. But in just being a mind training mental activity as an individual, training one's mind seems kind of individual. It seems kind of distant and apart. It seems kind of individualistic in the sense of being by yourself when you're training your mind and trying to be focused on the light. It seems rather difficult to maintain a focus of openness and of creation and of divinity when it's just mental without taking into account the heart. So recently in the last couple of years, what's been brought to me is teachings of the law of one. Aaron Abke, if you know who he is, does a beautiful job about simplifying how to use the heart center as a space for allowing the mind to be able to be trained more clearly. It's as if we were doing it mentally as an individual, it's as if the student was down the hallway from the master teacher, but not right in the room. And not being able to quite hear the master teacher. You can hear him drumming along, but you're not quite in the room, so the clarity is not quite there because you're in the hallway and you're separate from the master teacher. But having access to the heart center, which we all do if we practice it, allows us as the student to enter the classroom of the master teacher, sit down, join with the master teacher, and really feel the words and the inspiration and the light being shared. It's a different place of access from the heart. So I invite you to consider that space of the heart center to be our primary glue of creation, our primary frequency of how we come together, how we join, how we relate to each other. Then all of the spiritual practice and prayer and meditations that we do become more clear, become more ingrained, they become grounded, they become real lived experience, not just theory and philosophy, but real lived experience when we allow our hearts to be our primary center of identity, our primary center of being, our primary center of who we are in our hearts. And then everything that we do in terms of philosophy and training and theory and so forth becomes clarified from that place. It's still practice. It's still not all the time easy in a world that we have a billion distractions that want to take our focus away and put us on separation and put us on differences and why we're supposed to attack each other and hate each other and disdain each other. It still takes work, but there's a place of openness and receptivity in our heart space that I feel is more available and more energized than just doing things from a mental standpoint, which can seem very often apart and individualistic. So I just invite you to consider that space as a newfound sort of fuel source, an energetic space, a sort of creative route that we can call on whenever we want to and always available to us. So, the voice that always speaks is the title. And speaking of tuning in to the voice of the truth, the voice of spirit, there's only one true voice, as opposed to the one that we've been trained that we have to listen to, that individual worldly voice that's always erratic and always inconsistent, always up and down, always never stable for very long. The voice of truth is always speaking to us through our interactions that we go through during the day. The interactions we share with each other, good or bad, stressful or joyful, all give us language, all give us space to feel the voice for truth. But we have to be intentional about wanting to tune in via our heart space as sort of the frequency by which we can hear the voice of truth, the voice of spirit coming through in our daily lives. Every single interaction. I've been doing a mentoring group with the students at the high school where I work this year that we just started, and it's been amazing because we speak all the time about intention. As you know, young people, every age people are addicted to devices, and they don't have a frame of reference about taking time to disconnect and just go inward. It's a complete foreign language that they hear. They have an ability to connect with this part of themselves that didn't even know they were there by just disconnecting for moments of a time without doing anything fancy or formal and just going within and resting in our hearts and extending that heart space outwardly, connecting to everything we see and every do. Actually, we get into some pretty high metaphysical concepts, but we do it in plain language, being a public school and so forth. I'm respectful of that. But we have space there to really engage in all the difficulties that young people face. You know, they're going through puberty and all of these very difficult forces that they face in the world, but being able to at least hear that there's another part of themselves, that they have a power that is being untapped and being unused. I always said that the heart space is the superpower that we waste all day long in images and appearances and devices, in gossip, in interactions that are not serving us. And we do it because it's normal. Everybody around us is doing it and distracted and mentally checked out. So it just seems like the normal thing to do, to waft through your day without any intention. So I always share often that waking up in the morning from the start with intention about how to walk through the day changes everything. When we have an intention of walking in our heart and serving in the simplest of ways of just being able to see everything and everybody as an extension of us, as a reflection of us, as a mirror of us, without having to believe it, without having to rationalize it or make sense of it. The world wants to make things really, really scientific and complicated and come up with a pile of reasons why practicing oneness during the day is a waste of your time, and that we need to fixate on our separate identities, and we need to fix that on reality as opposed to practicing a way of thinking and a way of feeling that can lift us out of the separation and the harshness and the rigidity and the conflict-filled, hate-filled existence known as the world. So as opposed to trying to make sense of oneness, I just invite you to this heart space that can feel and practice oneness by seeing everything and everybody as an extension, as a mirror, as a direct reflection of ourselves without having to make sense of anything. Just imagine how that would feel differently going through the day, seeing all and everything. Oh, okay, this is showing me what's in my mind, what's in my heart, without having to talk or say it or trying to make sense or convince anybody, respecting everybody's free will, but also using our precious time during the day to embrace a higher frequency and a higher place of being and existence. And true service, the true highest service is looking at everybody as a connection, as a part of oneself. I feel that we oftentimes look at service as something that we do outwardly in the world in an overt sense, but I think that gets overblown to the deeper undercurrent of true purpose-filled living is getting out of bed every day, realizing that we can serve all of humanity and all of creation by realizing that we're all one and connected without even saying a word. That's how simple and powerful that gesture is. It doesn't automatically wipe away our difficulties and wipe away our conflicts with each other, but it gives us a sense of purpose to walk through the shadow. It gives us a sense of purpose to walk through the darkness when the world wants to justify attack and fighting and vilifying others and tearing each other down, which has become so normal. We have a place in ourselves that can cleanse all the junk and all the crap that we've been taught about who we are and how separate and apart we are by walking through it in a place of cleanliness and a pristine knowingness that there's something in there that's more unified and more joined, more of a creative divine force that we can access and walk with and live with and extend every moment of the day. And then our troubles become more clear. There's more perspective about how to walk through them. So living from a place of the heart is not about denying or pretending we have difficulties. It's absolutely being intentional about using these difficulties. How do I use this difficulty? Difficulty within, subconscious guilt, fear, shame. How do I use them to be able to transcend them so then I can truly serve? I can truly serve from the place of the heart, from the place of oneness and connectedness and joinedness. Then that is the highest form of service that we could ever do with each other. And then our actions change from that point, but not the other way around. We don't need to change our actions first. We need to change our heart-centered intention first about what we're here for and how we look at each other and how we're joined with each other, how we're connected with each other without saying a word, without trying to hang out with everybody, without trying to make friends of everybody. I'm not talking about that overt sense of connection. Some of that will change, but I'm really talking about how we relate and how we connect in our mind, in our heart. That is the ultimate place of transformation for how we then live in the world. I wanted to share some things that I heard from my favorite podcast, the Know Thyself podcast, from Dr. Anna Lemke. She talks about distraction and about our material abundance here and how that affects us. And then she goes into the shame cycle and how to break the shame cycle. So the first thing Dr. Anna Lemke says is that, quote, overwhelming abundance, which we have here in a material sense, most of us, is actually a stressor. So if you think that getting stuff and getting sort of material wealth, which is kind of our focus, our hyper focus in this culture, is somehow going to save us, then we can sit back and just think about how having so much and having so much of a fixation on comfort has actually stressed us out. We see it during the storms when that comfort is gone. We see it during COVID when some of the normal comforts and freedoms are gone. It actually creates a stressor because we're not used to living from a higher place beyond the material. So the overwhelming abundance, not bad, but when it becomes an identity, when it becomes a need to feel okay, it actually stresses us out in a very low-grade way that we're often unaware of. And the next thing, she shared quite a bit about breaking the shame cycle. She says to break the shame cycle using radical honesty, we can intervene in the lying part of the shame cycle. And when we muster the courage to tell someone what we're doing, it serves many functions. Number one, we become aware because when we're lying to other people, we're also lying to ourselves. We know that. And things stay hidden in the dark recesses of our minds where they really have control over us. And when we use language as a tool to tell people what we're doing, we can't unsee it. It becomes out the closet. It becomes in our face. And two, with awareness comes the desire to change, to realize we actually have some power in changing this. Number three, maybe the biggest hurdle that we can clear is that we've inculcated this idea that if we're radically honest and tell someone what we're ashamed of, that they're going to run away from us, judge us horribly. And then oftentimes, the opposite happens, that when we reveal our own brokenness, people come closer. We all have our own brokenness as humans because we've been conditioned to try to be something, be somebody that God did not create. And when we're honest and open in the most intimate of way, it fosters this place of intimacy and purity that is itself a bulwark against addiction. And so that was very practical because everybody can relate to shame, which I feel is probably the lowest of frequency of emotions. You got fear and pain and guilt, but then the shame tends to be like the lowest, heaviest burden that we've been conditioned to run away from and escape and not want to deal with. So I invite everybody, and I'm sharing from experience, that if we just take the time in our daily practice to be intentional about being open to all of those unpleasant, yucky feelings, be intentional about receiving them open arms in our heart and allowing the Spirit, the Christ in us, to walk through it, not avoid it, not run away, not throw it under the carpet, but to actually walk through it, to embrace it. And the ability to be able to share however we're led to do that, the ability to be able to walk through what most have learned to run away from completely changes us. It completely wipes clear the false identity if we stick with it. Difficult, but absolutely possible. So I invite you to consider that in your daily practice in a very intentional way. And finally, the idea about prayer and meditation in your overt spiritual routines. The ritual part of it is needed. We need structure because we're undisciplined here and we have so many distractions. The ritual, we do need some ritual. And all the mind training I practiced that I did early on, I did need that for a time because I had to settle my mind down. But more importantly is the intention part about it. And again, it's not about making sense of anything. Again, the world wants to convince us, stay weak, stay small, stay separate, and keep justifying this belief system in the world that teaches us to be small and separate and weak. It's not about making sense of anything. It's about opening up our hearts with the intention to embrace everything and everybody, even the people we don't like, even the things that we can't stand. It could be weather. It doesn't even have to be personal. It could be traffic, like what Marvin spoke about. The little things that we kind of brush off that annoy us and control us, but to embrace it all as the opportunity to walk into it from a place of a higher self, from a higher frequency. We don't deny or pretend it. We actually embrace a fullness of humanity by letting it all in and intentionally walking through it. In that way, it becomes clarified about what the lesson, what the opportunity is to be able to realize, even from a practice standpoint, even if we don't believe it, that everything I'm experiencing is part of me in some way, is some extension of me. And it's a lesson, it's out the closet, it's in the world, it's in front of me in all of these things and people, because I need to see that element of myself that I have to evolve from and grow from. And it changes everything as opposed to running from it, as opposed to individualizing and say, it's just them, but they, but those people, but them, that they, those people. When we individualize and project and leave it there, then we stay really weak and we stay really immobilized and we stay blind to the truth of us that's being reflected out as part of a layer that we need to undo and we need to see past. And that's where our true power lies. So I invite everybody to be intentional about waking up and realizing a bigger part of ourself available. So real quick, I'm going to close with Jesus's 4 points of power, and we will wrap up. Number one, Be willing and brave enough to see all and everything through the eyes of the heart. Seeing all as one with yourself is the ultimate expression of humility, vulnerability, and strength. 2, avoid taking sides for purposes of attack of the enemy. 3, practice imagining. We waste our imaginative power. Practice imagining a sense of childlike joy and fun and laughter in everything we think of. Extend that from our heart. And 4, practice a voice in our hearts of unconditional kindness, gentleness, and appreciation no matter what. This is the only voice of truth that we need to listen to. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to come. Acknowledge yourself for taking time to hear this, okay?
Thank you, Gonzalo. I'm going to take away knowing that I use that still, always talking, always expressing voice from the heart. Knowing that that works in my life just as it does in yours and everybody else's. So thank you for that. This is time that we have for our tithes and offerings, and I'm going to invite our ushers to come forward. For everybody who hasn't got on the program, I invite you to see me after church for the Sustain Giving program. It is a way that we are able to fund our church, to fund our mission, to help in the church budgeting. So come see me afterwards about Sustain Giving. Thank you. And let us just take this moment as we embrace this time of giving, knowing that this giving is about making a difference. We give that thanks. We know that these gifts will bless this ministry as we move forward, upward, and onward with love and joy. And so it is. Amen.
We're going to sing together. Hello, everyone. So this is our chance to sing together at the end of service. If you have received a hymnal, you might have noticed in your program that we will be turning to page 274 to sing out the end of this service with Hark, the Herald Angels Sing.
Why doesn't everybody stand up?
And you can be the voice that always speaks,
Yes.
or sings in this case. So
You can
let's
take
get
a
on
big,
there.
deep breath.
Let's get
Sing
into
it
some
out.
vibrational therapy. I love it. I love it. You guys are ready.
Joyful nations rise.
service today, everyone. Keep that joy, spread it out into the world. We'll see you out in the lobby. Have a great week.